A winter morning in the suburbs of southern Missouri. The wind whipped through leafless trees like a cold leather strap. Frost clung to car windows parked along the street, and the pale sun, dim as if veiled by cloth, barely lit the faded white lines at the intersection. Tucked between rows of old red brick buildings, Dixon's Diner had already opened. Its weathered metal sign clattered in the wind. Inside, the air was heavy with the smell of frying grease, eggs sizzling on the griddle, pies baking, and coffee bubbling in a glass pot whose letters had long since worn away. Most of the customers were white police officers in uniform, radios strapped to their shoulders, belts weighed down with guns and batons. They laughed loudly, speaking in thick southern drawls, ordering breakfast like they owned the place. A few locals sat quietly in the corners, an old man in a knit cap, an elderly woman knitting, a couple murmuring at their booth. Then the glass door opened. A gust of cold swept in, and Jeremiah Lewis, a thin, stooped black man in his 70s, walked inside. He wore a faded khaki coat with the top button missing, a frayed gray beanie, mud-stained trousers, and shoes so worn the heels were nearly gone. In one hand, he clutched a folded piece of paper. The other stayed buried in his pocket for warmth. Each step left a faint trace of melted snow on the tiled floor, like sorrowful notes written across a silent score. The diner fell quiet. Silverware stopped clinking. A cop in the middle of a joke cut himself off mid-sentence. Eyes lifted, necks craned. The laughter drained out of the room. Jeremiah didn't look up. He simply walked to an empty table near the window and sat. His back slightly hunched, but his movements careful, almost dignified. From behind the counter, a tall, red-haired waitress in her 30s strode over, Crystal May, well known in town for her 10-minute rule that no black customer ever sat too long without being pushed to order or pushed out. She carried a glass filled with murky, foamy water left over from rinsing vegetables the night before. She slammed it down on his table so hard it splashed. Her voice was shrill, lips curled in a smirk. "Here's today's special, on the house." The diner erupted in laughter. "Wait a second. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us." A few cops slapped the table. One of them, Rick Malton, a balding traffic officer with a sagging belly, muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "He can't pay for food anyway. Black folks like him ought to be happy drinking ditch water." Crystal crossed her arms, staring Jeremiah down, waiting for outrage. But Jeremiah didn't flinch. No anger, no protest. He simply looked at the glass for a moment, then lifted it gently with both hands. His fingers trembled, not from fear but from cold, or perhaps from years carried in silence. He took a small sip, set the glass down carefully, as though it were fine wine. The room froze, and then, faintly, he smiled. Not a smile of gratitude, but a smile that unsettled, because it wasn't the look of a man shamed. It was the look of a man who pitied those trying to shame him. Crystal blinked, thrown off balance. Jeremiah spoke softly, his voice low and steady.
"I'm sorry if my presence troubles you. I'm not here to cause any disturbance. I just need a job, any work at all. I'm willing to do whatever's asked if it means I can live an honest life."
The laughter died. From the kitchen emerged Chester Dixon, the diner's owner. He wore a flour-dusted apron, sleeves rolled to his elbows, eyes sharp and unwelcoming. Once a veteran, now a widower, Chester had grown cold, especially toward anyone not white. He sized Jeremiah up like an object to be priced. "You want work? At your age?" Jeremiah nodded. "Yes." "What can you do?" "Clean, deliver, bus tables, scrub toilets, anything." Chester studied him a moment longer, then jerked his head toward the back. "Crystal, show him the storage room. There's an old mattress in the cold room. That'll be his bed. Daytime, whatever no one else wants to do, dump it on him." Crystal shrugged, turning away. Chester added without looking back, "I'm only hiring you so folks stop complaining about a vagrant hanging around my place. One wrong move, one phone call, and the cops right here will handle you. Understood?" Jeremiah bowed his head slightly. "Understood." He rose, following Crystal toward the back door. His shoulders were thin, but his back stayed straight, his steps measured. A black old man swallowed whole by a white man's world, yet carrying a quiet presence that hollowed out the laughter left behind. No one knew it yet, but the day Jeremiah Lewis walked into Dixon's diner was the day the masks inside that diner began to crack. Dixon's diner had 3 unspoken rules for new staff. Don't sit unless told to. Don't talk back when customers curse you. And above all, never let anyone know what goes on behind the kitchen doors. Jeremiah, the old black man who'd just been taken in, learned those rules quickly, not because anyone explained them, but because the contempt in people's eyes made the message clear. On his very first morning, he was assigned to scrub the toilets. No gloves. The floor was caked with grease, soap scum hardened from days of neglect. Crystal, the red-haired waitress, leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, chewing her gum with a smirk. "Your hands are black anyway. A little grease won't make a difference." Jeremiah said nothing. He bent down, dipped his rag into a bucket of murky water, and kept working. Chester, the owner, had assigned him to sleep in the storage room. No windows, just a crooked mattress on the freezing concrete floor. No lamp, no heat. Jeremiah curled inside his thin coat each night like a stray cat waiting for morning. "Better than near the kitchen," Crystal had said. "He stinks." Still, Jeremiah never complained. He moved through the diner like a shadow, mopping floors, scrubbing sinks, hauling crates, washing endless stacks of dishes. His hands swelled red from icy water. His back ached, but no one ever saw him sit. Day after day, no one asked his name. They just called him Old Man or that black guy. And yet sometimes people noticed him sitting quietly in the back during his break, holding a folded scrap of paper or fiddling with a tiny device. Once, Crystal called Rick, the traffic cop regular, to search him. They stormed through his things, dumping his ragged clothes on the floor, shaking out every towel, even patting him down. They found nothing. Jeremiah quietly picked up his belongings, wordless as ever. Another time, he rearranged the diner's menu, shifting items, suggesting a section for lighter meals for customers with weak stomachs. Chester glanced once, then tossed it straight in the trash. "This ain't your place to innovate. Just wash dishes." From then on, they stopped noticing him at all. Jeremiah became invisible, just a tool for cleaning up the mess no one wanted to touch. The divide in the diner was sharp. White customers got smiles, chatter, warm refills. But whenever a black person or immigrant walked in, Crystal's face hardened. She slammed menus on tables, spoke in clipped tones, sometimes refused to serve them altogether. Once, a Mexican couple in their 50s sat nearly 20 minutes without even water. They left quietly. Jeremiah chased after them with an apology, but they only shook their heads and gave him a sad smile. Still, he tried. He poured water. He wiped tables. He did what little he could to remind those outsiders they were human too, even if in everyone else's eyes he wasn't. Then came that Tuesday afternoon. The wind knifed through the diner's drafty windows when a pregnant black woman walked in. She looked about 30, pale from exhaustion, wrapped in a puffy coat but clutching her belly against a spasm. Her voice shook. "Excuse me, could I please have some hot water? If it's not free, I'll pay." She lowered herself into a chair near the door, breathing hard, eyes closed. Jeremiah, wiping down a nearby table, immediately turned toward the kitchen to fetch a clean cup. But Crystal moved faster. She scooped murky vegetable rinse water from the sink, topped it with boiling water, and carried it out with a saccharine smile. "Here you go, sweetheart." Jeremiah saw it all. He lunged forward, snatching the cup.
I'll bring her another."
Crystal clamped his wrist, whispering through clenched teeth, "You want to get fired? Know your place." The woman, too polite or too afraid to cause trouble, took the cup from Crystal anyway. She sipped a few mouthfuls before Jeremiah could stop her. Within minutes, her face drained of color. Her body trembled. She clutched her stomach, doubling over. "It hurts. Oh God, it hurts." She collapsed to the floor, groaning, one hand reaching blindly toward Jeremiah. The diner froze. Crystal grabbed a rag, casually wiping tables, texting on her phone, not dialing 911. One cop snorted. "Drama." Black women always overplay the pain. Jeremiah dropped to his knees beside her. Stay with me. Breathe. Don't force it. I've got you. He looked up, voice cutting across the room. Somebody call an ambulance, please. No one moved. Jeremiah's gaze hardened. Disappointment, fury, and something else. Resolve. He lifted the woman onto his thin shoulders, every muscle trembling, and staggered toward the door. Just before leaving, he turned back. For the first time, his voice wasn't soft, it was steel. You'll regret this. Your chances are gone. The door slammed. His car disappeared into the fog. Inside Dixon's diner, the laughter never returned. A shiver slid through the room, cold as the wind seeping through the half-closed door, an omen that a storm was coming. The next morning, Dixon's diner opened as if nothing had changed. The same stale smell of grease rising from the pans, knives clattering against cutting boards, and the loud laughter of the white officers who always claimed table 4. Crystal reapplied her bright red lipstick, tilting her head at her reflection behind the counter. She whispered to a coworker, "Bet that old black geezer won't dare show his face here again." Chester, the owner, sipped his coffee while scrolling through the diner's security cameras. All fake, set up only for intimidation. But at exactly 8 a.m., the glass door flew open. Not a customer. 3 officials in gray suits, badges glinting from the Office of Civil Rights Enforcement. The man in front didn't shout. He simply laid a document on the counter. Dixon's diner temporarily closed under investigation for severe human rights violations. Before Chester could react, the second officer taped a giant red notice across the front door, in bold letters. Establishment closed, under federal investigation. Silence. Forks froze midair. Crystal's jaw dropped, lipstick smeared on her teeth. Rick, the traffic cop, forced a grin, then edged back in his seat as if none of this concerned him. But it was only the beginning. 15 minutes later, every local TV station broke with the same footage. The headline scrolled across the screen in heavy letters: "Evidence of human rights violations at Dixon's Diner. Captured by federal investigator." The clip played out, grainy but clear enough. Crystal set down a murky glass of water in front of the old man, smirking as she turned away. A white customer propped his boots on a chair, whispering, "Black folks belong in the gutter." Rick patting Jeremiah down and sneering, "Bet you don't even own a fork." And finally, the pregnant black woman collapsing at the door, Crystal turning her back, Chester frozen in place, while only one man rushed to catch her: Jeremiah Lewis. The camera shook, but captured everything. The frail figure carrying her into the storm. The city gasped. It was like watching a documentary about a lawless land, except it was their own neighborhood. Then the anchor read the next line, slowly, like a verdict. The black man in the footage is Jeremiah Nathaniel Lewis, 71, a decorated Vietnam War infantry veteran, recipient of the Bronze Star for bravery. After his service, he spent his life working with the Federal Human Rights Commission, investigating discrimination cases, undercover as a homeless man or low-wage worker. The revelation hit like thunder. The man they mocked, ordered around, dismissed as worthless, was the same man who once fought on the front lines, then returned to defend the voiceless at home. Chester collapsed into a chair. Crystal broke down in tears, not from guilt, but because she knew she was finished. The broadcast continued. Jeremiah Lewis had received 3 anonymous complaints of racial abuse at Dixon's Diner. For 6 months, investigations stalled, lacking evidence, lacking witnesses. He chose to go in himself, equipped only with a hidden camera in his shirt button, a recorder in his cap, and a USB with encrypted ID codes. Images flashed on screen: the worn cap, the faded button. Ordinary things turned into weapons of truth. The clip ended with Jeremiah's voice, recorded while he scrubbed dishes, a quiet monologue to no one in particular. "If you stay silent in the face of wrong, you've chosen the side of the wrong. I'm too old to fight with fists, but I still have enough strength to hold on to the truth." The city reeled. Social media erupted. Jeremiah Lewis trending at #1. "I ate there before. I feel sick for not speaking up." A hero doesn't need armor, just an old coat. Forgive me, sir, for every time we let this happen in silence. Meanwhile, Dixon's diner was fully locked down. Files seized, equipment confiscated, Rick summoned, Crystal detained, Chester ordered to appear in court. The pregnant woman, saved just in time, later spoke through tears. If Jeremiah hadn't carried me out, I would have lost my child. I can't believe someone treated like dirt saved me without hesitation. The news closed with footage of Jeremiah stepping out of a gas station. Same battered shoes, same faded cap, but this time surrounded by cameras, his face glowing with quiet dignity. He didn't answer questions. He just smiled. A smile, not of triumph, but of warning. The Federal Human Rights Commission's investigation did not stop at Dixon's diner. The day Jeremiah Lewis stepped out of the shadows was also the day light began pouring into the filthy corners of a system everyone had pretended not to see. As the media exploded with the shocking clip, government hotlines received more than 70 new complaints, not just from customers but also from former employees. They spoke of staff meetings where managers quietly instructed, "Sort customers by skin color, it saves time." They described being forced out of jobs simply for objecting to the two-tier service policy. They recalled the sneers whenever an immigrant family walked through the door. The commission launched a sweeping investigation. What they uncovered stunned the city. Chester's business wasn't just a single diner. It was a franchised network, 12 locations across 3 counties, operating under different brand names, but bound by the same unwritten code: discriminate against the poor, the immigrant, the non-white. Internal files revealed over 30 official complaints had been filed in the past 4 years. Almost all were dismissed as lacking sufficient evidence or deemed non-urgent. The reason? Chester had cultivated close ties with senior police officers, sponsoring end-of-year banquets, donating to community support funds, polishing his diner's reputation as friendly and traditional. One of Jeremiah's hidden recordings captured a damning exchange between Chester and Officer Rick. "I'll make sure the cameras show nothing as long as you keep our team well fed. Leave the black whiners to me. I'll shut them up." The city erupted in outrage. Within a month, authorities issued a permanent closure order for the entire chain. Headquarters were padlocked. Bank accounts frozen for financial investigation. Chester and Crystal, the red-haired waitress, were criminally indicted for gross professional misconduct, endangerment of a pregnant woman, systematic racial discrimination. Meanwhile, 4 white police officers were suspended and placed under internal review for bribery and conspiracy to obstruct justice. But what moved the public most was not the heavy hand of justice. It was the spark of reform it ignited. A new bill was introduced and passed within 10 days. Its mandates: all service establishments must install independent complaint systems connected directly to government oversight. Regular audits of staff conduct, including anonymous customer evaluations. Mandatory annual training against racial discrimination. On live television, the mayor declared, "We cannot let a man like Jeremiah risk his own body to do what society itself has failed to do." 3 weeks later, winter was loosening its grip. Snow melted in patches across the Central Park lawn. The wind whispered through bare branches like winter reluctantly bowing out. Jeremiah Lewis, still in his worn coat, sat on his usual bench, the old cloth cap beside him. A few strangers had placed flowers inside it, quiet tokens of gratitude. A child's voice suddenly rang out. "Sir, sir, I saw you on TV." Jeremiah looked up. A white boy with golden hair and curious blue eyes stood before him, clutching a sketchbook. On its page was a crude drawing of a soldier with a medal. "I want to grow up to be like you." Jeremiah smiled. The kind of smile that held generations of pain yet refused to bow. He leaned forward, resting a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "Then start," he said softly, "by respecting everyone, especially those who aren't like you. Messenger, there are battles with no gunfire, no blood spilled, yet they still leave wounds deep in the human soul." Jeremiah Lewis, a frail black old man, walked into a diner under scornful eyes, not to eat but to hold up a mirror for society to see itself. He did not shout. He did not seek revenge. He simply lived with dignity in a place of cruelty, and that in itself was the most powerful act of resistance. His story reminds us that justice is not just the final strike of a gavel in court. It is the tireless journey of those who refuse to give up, refuse to bend to what is wrong, and never stop believing in what is right. Sometimes, to change a world that has grown indifferent, all it takes is to begin by respecting those who are not like us.